Sunday's game against the Cowboys, a must-win for Baltimore.
This is something we can correct.
Give it to Henry. Powers his way in. Touchdown. Prescott airs it out for Lamb. Touchdown, Cowboys. And he is dropped, sacked.
We need that ball. One game at a time. That's what I want to be labeled as a champion.
Oh, that looks cool. NFL Live in the middle there. All right, big weekend in Jerry's world with the Cowboys hosting Lamar Jackson and the 0-2 Ravens. Both teams seemingly in must-win mode already. Both the Ravens and Cowboys, some things to fix up. The Ravens ranked bottom 10 in the league last week in completion percentage and third down conversion rate. They went 0 for 3 on third down in the second half, which led to the Raiders' 10-point comeback. And the Cowboys defense couldn't stop Derek Carr and allowed him to have the highest QBR on the week. They also couldn't get off the field on third down. RC, the Ravens looking for their first win still. Kind of shocking. What are you looking out to see from this Baltimore offense in this game?
You know, like just looking at the outside, from the outside in, last week it seemed that Baltimore didn't find anything. But if you watch the entire game over, you see that early on, Derrick Henry was going to get kilted by Max Crosby. Like legitimately, he was clotheslining him, he was jumping, and his face mask. And as the game went on, I saw Derrick Henry have some success from pistol, have some success from the gun, especially with some of those outside or off-tackle runs. I believe that's a way that they can go and attack the Dallas Cowboys. And from that, Lamar and Zay Flowers started to have some success in the play-action game. And so, as I am worried about Todd Monken finding a balance, I believe this week against the Dallas Cowboys, there is a way for Derrick Henry to get going, and from that, find ways for Lamar Jackson to get going in the play-action game. And I do think if all else fails, number 8 knows how to put on the cape, use those legs, and make some plays.
RC, you gonna relate to this, man. Look, we could talk about X's and O's and execution and where guys are lined up. I better hear that click-clack.
Whoa.
I want to hear that click-clack in this game.
Okay,
we
now.
saw the Dallas Cowboys get ran through. We questioning if the Baltimore Ravens can get it going. All I want to see, RC, is that click-clack, dog. Because it was a physical mauling by the New Orleans Saints. As much as we talk about Derek Carr, as much as we talk about how he pushed the ball down the field, I looked at a line of scrimmage that got displaced. All I want to hear, y'all, is that click-clack. Hat on hands, helmet to helmet, and we going to see who toughest at the offensive and defensive line.
Where'd you get this?
Yeah.
Start the game now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Start the dang game.
I see Aaron in my ear like, you follow Marcus. You want me to follow that?
Yeah.
You want me?
Go ahead, Dan.
I'm going to get into these formations and try to motion and
Self-awareness is at a 10 on this show.
That was good stuff, fella. I think the Ravens offensively, we've talked a lot about their offensive line. They just haven't figured out, in many ways, it's embarrassing how little they've gotten the ball to Mark Andrews this year. Not only that, how late they've gotten the ball to Mark Andrews. He didn't get his first catch until the third quarter in week 1. And really his first catch in week 2 came with $1:30 on the clock in the second quarter. RC's talked about this. It's really Zay Flowers at the wide receiver spot right now. Bateman is hit or miss, it feels like. You have one of the best tight ends in football. At the end of the day, like this game as an offensive play caller, and Todd Monken is fantastic, you got to go into this game going, I want 4 people to touch the football basically every play, one of those 4. It's got to be Lamar Jackson, no doubt. It's got to be Derrick Henry, no doubt. It's got to be Zay Flowers, and then it has to be Mark Andrews. Those 4, if you have 70 snaps in this game, those 4 should touch it 60 times in some fashion, some way. Mark's got to get involved sooner for this offense.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Ryan? Sorry.
Wait, it's my turn? I'm back?
Sorry, I thought we changed
Marcus,
it up.
You messed the whole show.
Yo.
Marcus, you messed the whole show up.
No, that was my fault. That was my fault. I'm back. Mina, I want to talk about the Ravens offense, but what about this Dallas offense? How can they exploit the Ravens defense?
It's Friday.
All of our brains are just going click, clack, click, clack, click, clack right now. Yeah, so one of the big developments in this Cowboys offense last season was when they started using CeeDee Lamb more as a traditional X receiver, right? The second half of the year in particular. So far this year, he's mostly been aligned in the slot. Now, some of that has to do with matchups and game script, no doubt. That has to change this week because let me tell you, there is no one in this Ravens cornerback room who I think can defend CeeDee Lamb. And what we saw Devontae Adams do at the end of last game against the Las Vegas Raiders, Lamb is capable of that. So it sounds obvious to say this offense goes through CeeDee Lamb, but I think in this one in particular, you want to use him as your X receiver, get those matchups on the outside, and trust him to win.
All right, let's actually pick the game.
Wonderful about what you're saying. I'm sorry. No, what Mina is saying is real, though. Think about Rashee Rice in the first game, right? He goes off for 120. And Mina mentioned Devontae Adams in that second half. That's to go along with 2 drops. He dropped the rail that would have been the touchdown, and then he comes wide open underneath. CeeDee Lamb can have himself a day. There is no corner that stands out for the Baltimore Ravens right now.
Swag, do your question quick.
Dan brought up Mark Andrews. I wanted to know, do you think they're trusting Isaiah Likely as a more explosive option at tight end than Mark Andrews now, and that's why we see that dip in production?
Absolutely, but he's too important for Lamar, specifically with the creative plays as well. They got to get Mark involved early.
All right, let's see our game picks here between the Cowboys and the Ravens. We're going to put the picks up. I am picking the Cowboys, and I can't believe you, Swagoo, but I'm going to pick them for you in your honor.
Wow.
Look at New Orleans, where the Saints have put up 91 points in their first 2 weeks of the season on their way to 2 blowout victories over the Panthers and Cowboys, while the Eagles still trying to find their rhythm after a late-game loss to Atlanta on Monday night. We're going to start with Marcus. What is the lock for this game, Swagoo?
The lock for this game is that Alvin Kamara will go over 100 all-purpose yards. Listen, I think Alvin Kamara is like one of them dudes that played basketball that was stuck in the motion offense. Now they running high screen and roll, and he can get off. He can get to one of them $300 million contracts. I had him in that group of the Christian McCaffreys and the Saquon Barkleys early in his career. Alvin was actually one of those guys to kind of usher in this value of the running back position. It's back. They are using him multiple ways, and we're starting to see it pay dividends in this new offense with Clint.
Dan, what's the key in this game?
Marcus, I would put you in high screen and rolls like those teams in the NBA do with Rudy Gobert, bro. I'll bust you. The key is going to be this Eagles defense, and can they stop the outside zone run scheme? We've talked about it so much over the past couple weeks. Someone's going to have to set the edge. Someone's going to have to get into the gaps and cut off the backside. And then the big thing is going to be the key is stopping that run without making yourself incredibly vulnerable in the middle of the field for some of those big play action passes.
Yes, Lord.
All right, let's see some game picks here. Yes, Lord. I just love it. I'm picking the Eagles. I don't know why, guys. I was doing the game. I was sending the game picks in earlier. I was texting. I was like, oh, let me just get a little crazy and pick the Eagles. So there we go. Saints across the board.
It's all good,
and they're trying to go.
Save the graphic.
Listen, yeah, I'm trying, but I actually kind of think they might win. They might surprise some people. All right, let's go to Los Angeles next.
There we go.
Yeah, stop it, Dan. Thank you for getting that in, Swagoo. The Rams are looking to get their first win of the season as they host the Niners. 2 teams coming off big losses last week on and off the field, as they're going to both be without key players in this NFC West matchup. There's so many that are not going to be in this game. You see Cooper Kupp right there limping off the field. Of course, Puka Nacua is still hurt. George Kittle is out. The list goes on and on. Christian McCaffrey still not playing. Mina, let's go here. What is the lock in this game?
I think the Niners go back to their older ways and lean heavily on play action, which has not been the case in recent years and thus far this season. They've been able to create uncertainty with their personnel rather than the play action pass. But now that personnel is no longer in the football game. You just saw this Rams defense get destroyed via play action against Arizona. I think Kyle Shanahan goes to his roots and uses that to create throwing windows for Brock Purdy.
RC, what's the key in this matchup?
I think the key is Brock Purdy executing this offense while not having his full complement of skilled players. We saw him struggle last year with Deebo Samuel out and Trent Williams. So now that you have some guys banged up, Christian McCaffrey, obviously the Achilles, Deebo with a calf, and now George Kittle, can Brock Purdy create big plays, but also manage this offense in a way where even if they're not as explosive, they're good enough to win football games? We didn't see that last year. Now it's about him taking that next step and elevating the people around him.
Let's see some picks here. I really struggle with this one because of all the injuries on both of these teams that we've talked about. We're all picking the 49ers. I mean, I think I'm going to stick with it.
Give me the Rams.
I hear swag over there.
Give me the Rams.
They're so injured.
Give me the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams.
RC's taking the Rams.
It's going to suck. I'm going to save the graphic.
Even their kickers are.
Give me the Rams.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. I thought it was going to have to be. I'm done saving the graphics, so RC helped us out there. The 49ers, by the way, 9-1 versus the Rams in the regular season. Ooh, week 3 is heating up as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs look to get 3-0 as they take on the Falcons. Both teams coming from behind to win late in week 2. Atlanta looking to prove their offseason hype is no joke with the defending champions in town on Sunday night. And Patrick Mahomes will make his 99th career start Sunday night. His 76 wins are tied with Tom Brady and Roger Staubach for the most in quarterbacks' first 100 starts since 1950. Mahomes has won 13 of his last 16 road games, including playoffs, and will play in Atlanta for the first time in his career. Mahomes is clearly a winner, as we all know. How can the Falcons have a chance in this game to keep it tight?
I'm so lucky I get to go first because apparently we all had the same thought we just found out, which is under center, play action, heavy dose of Bijan Robinson outside zone.
She's a genius.
It worked last week, but I'll go first. The reason I think particularly against this Chiefs defense is, I'm telling you, if you just put Kirk back there in the gun and ask him to spray it, the Chiefs will win, and they will be able to create a ton of pressure with Chris Jones on that interior. You need to do everything possible to slow that pass rush. And I will say, Chiefs defense is very good. I think they are actually still vulnerable to under center runs and play action. So I expect to see a lot of that again from the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and I think what Mina is saying, that sort of game plan, it allows Kirk to get into the flow of the football game. When you look at last week, it started early, or the first week of the season, it started early with the PBU by Dante Jackson because they were forcing Kirk to throw into bad coverage. They couldn't push people off the line of scrimmage. Now with Bijan Robinson, the ability to create the explosive play in the run, maybe that changes some of the pressure packages by Steve Spagnuolo to run blitzes where Kirk Cousins can get play action passes and have some time. Marcus has said time and time again, Chris Jones wrecks plays. He's like Godzilla. He destroys cities. And so if he's going to do that, attack him with Bijan Robinson, move the pocket with Kirk Cousins, and I think you have a better chance to win playing that way than you do the way this season started against the Steelers.
Y'all, we try to deduce this information. Mina, you're right. We all in the same vein because that's the reality, right? One thing I was thinking about, I went back and watched 4 of the Chiefs games between yesterday and today. And the thing that I realized, and I don't know if y'all going to agree with me, it feels like the games go so long. Like forever. There's always an opportunity late in those games for the Kansas City Chiefs to make a play. It's like extra time gets added for some reason. Like it was just an overall occurring theme. You down to San Francisco in the Super Bowl. It felt like the game went for 17 hours. Like until the Chiefs get the lead, the game is not going to be over. It's about shortening the game, and you do that with the run, and obviously that is the strong suit of what we see the Atlanta Falcons being right now with a dynamic back in Bijan, but also Algier. And I believe it's about having that 1-2 combo that's going to pay huge dividends for them if they have an opportunity to create a win. RC alluded to it. You do not beat the Kansas City Chiefs without explosive plays. But coincidentally, it's going to have your deep passes is going to have to start from the backfield.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts has got to finally come to the party, and be a difference maker at tight end. We saw Mike Gesicki last week for the Bengals be really good. And as much as I love the Chiefs defense, I just think their secondary is so good. And if you think that you're just going to throw it to your wideouts consistently, good luck. You got to work the middle of the field on these backers, and your tight end's got to be the guy. Also, I would screen the absolute heck out of this football team. Multiple kinds of screens. Your traditional dropbacks, I'd play action screen them, I'd perimeter screen them. And the last thing I'd say is this. We know that the left tackle in Kansas City is an issue right now. Matthew Judon, you were acquired for this type of game. Judon has the chance to be a game wrecker at that left tackle or over that left tackle.
All right, let's see our game picks. And I'm just going to say, if this goes how I think it might go, I'm changing my pick. Yep, I'm changing my pick. I'm going with the Falcons. So whatever you see on the screen, that's not right. I'm sorry. I didn't get my pick in time, so that's my bad. I'm here in Baton Rouge. I got, like, really distracted talking about Marcus and RC, and I forgot to change my pick. But now it's changed. So here we go. Yeah, Baton Rouge is standing up.
The last time you made a last-second pick or change to the Falcons, you actually were right.
I know, so that's why I'm doing it. This is like a win-win for all of us. All right, we're going to move on.
She's a fan of the Falcons, too.
Correct.
Don't be telling people that. It's a win-win for me. Time now for AI-generated fantasy insights from IBM Watson X. And Kyle Pitts, as Dan was just talking about, he's projected to have a high of 11.1 fantasy points this week after being held to 6 catches for 46 yards combined over the first 2 weeks. His projection this week ranks 7th among tight ends. If he reaches it, it'll be his second double-digit game of this season. So that's Chiefs-Falcons. Let's go to Vikings-49ers. After an offseason full of questions surrounding who would be the Vikings quarterback, Sam Darnold has led Minnesota to a 2-0 start with an upset victory over the 49ers last week. Darnold has looked sharp just 2 weeks into the season as the Vikings welcomed C.J. Stroud and the 2-0 Texans to town for an early battle of unbeaten teams. And Stroud will have a tough task against Brian Flores and that Vikings defense on Sunday. The Vikings have blitzed on 36% of dropbacks this season, the second highest rate of any team behind the Broncos. And Stroud has been solid against the blitz so far in his career, ranking 5th in passer rating and yards per attempt. Plus, he's thrown 11 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions against the blitz. RC, speaking of Stroud under pressure, is that the biggest key for Houston when it comes to avoid against the Vikings?
Abso-stinking-lutely. Brian Flores is in his bag, and it's one of those big old bags that you see the mamas carry when they had twins and they got a baby on the way. This is going to be crazy, and I'm so excited about it because we've watched C.J. Stroud take another step in his creativity, getting outside of the pocket. When you look at what the Bears were able to do with a couple of their pressure packages, bringing Kyler Gordon as an extra rusher, we watched C.J. Stroud manipulate the pocket, push the football down the field to Nico Collins. But the Brian Flores blitzes keep so many eyes on the quarterback. This isn't one of those situations where you get out of the pocket and now you can use your legs to pick up first down. They still have vision to break. And so it's going to be the ultimate chess match between Bobby Slowick, Brian Flores, but also the execution of Minnesota versus C.J. Stroud, who has been one of the best in the league when pressured.
Yeah, the blitzes are so unconventional because of the zones coverage they play behind it. Those numbers that quarterbacks put up against traditional blitzes, they don't really apply when you're talking about the Vikings. Something he's so good at, Brian Flores, is using simulated pressures, disguise, to basically make quarterbacks think a little bit more, take away their first read, particularly over the middle of the field. You've seen that when they've played San Francisco. And because of that, what is so important here, and RC alluded to this, is that out-of-structure playmaking ability. I'm going to say something that might sound sacrilegious. I think the connection out of structure between C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins is comparable to Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And if you don't think that, over the last 2 years, on extended plays, meaning plays where the quarterback holds the ball over 4 seconds, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are second in expected points added. C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins are first. You saw it on that clip on the right sideline, that throw he made and Nico's ability to work back to him, and that's going to be such a key component, I think, in this game against this defense.
I love it, Mina. I'm not sure. We were talking about this recently. I'm not sure we're giving Nico Collins enough credit. We talk about him a lot even on this show. Here's our game picks. All right, Dan, right there in the middle with the Vikings pick. We appreciate Aaron Rodgers' mobility. They got their wish on Thursday. According to NFL Next Gen stats, Rodgers had 5 completions on the run, 8 under pressure, and 6 outside the pocket last night versus New England. He struggled in those areas in weeks 1 and 2, and he didn't complete a single pass outside the pocket, just had 1 on the run under pressure. Dan, once again, we'll add that to your resume reel when it comes to the Emmys, but first of all, what else did you see out of this Jets offense?
All right,
Go ahead.
Last night, Aaron Rodgers talked about how teams are playing Garrett Wilson. And he's saying, man, everyone's playing that cover 2 to Garrett Wilson. And the ball distribution was a big part of this story last night. So Garrett Wilson at the bottom of the screen, okay? He's going to run a go route. Now, this safety is everything when it comes to who's going to get the football and when. If that safety goes to the middle of the field, Aaron Rodgers is going to take a one-on-one shot to Garrett Wilson at the bottom of the screen. Remember, Garrett's on a go route. Now, if this safety turns in doubles, someone else has to win in the middle of the field. Now, as that ball gets snapped, Kyle Duggar, that safety, look at his vision. Right on Garrett Wilson. That means those 2 defenders are going to play 2 over 1 on Garrett Wilson. The other part of this is that when you double team a receiver like that, that linebacker has to match that back to the play side. Someone else has to win front side. Conklin's the guy, runs up, fakes, and then comes across that linebacker's face. This is 2nd and 17. My favorite part of play about this play, watch Garrett Wilson at the end of the play. He puts his hand up to Aaron Rodgers. He realizes he's getting double teamed in the impact for his teammates. A little bit later in this game, this is 3rd and 9. Garrett Wilson up at the top of the screen again with the go route. Remember, that safety is everything. If that safety goes to the middle field, we're taking our shot one-on-one. If that safety is then going to and play Garrett Wilson again in that double team, someone else has to win on 3rd and 9. Ball gets snapped. There goes that safety. He's sprinting back. Somebody else in the middle field has to win. This is one of my favorite parts. Rodgers is staring this way. He's not looking to figure out what the defense is. He knows it. He's trying to get that safety with his eyes staring as far as they can to widen even more because he's trying to hit Conklin down the middle of the field. Comes back, that safety widens. Look how wide that safety gets. He's outside the numbers, the space that is created in the middle field for Conklin on the seam. 3rd and 9, easy completion. I know it wasn't a massive stat night for Garrett Wilson, but what you're seeing is when this offense is running the ball, and they have him on the outside, it is very difficult to manage. And that's why all these other pieces are going to be very important for the Jets offense. It's either Garrett Wilson or someone else.
DR, I love that you showed that, man, because, you know, when I was talking about the notes, one of my big things was ball distribution.
Yep.
And obviously we know that Garrett Wilson is going to deal with that for a large majority of the year. But now the difference is with the New York Jets is they have a quarterback that's going to be able to disseminate it fast and get the ball out of his hands. You talk about those checks at the line of scrimmage to create run after catch. It was a lot. And a couple years ago, I told you they need the dink and dunk when we were talking about the Buffalo Bills. And you looked at me wide-eyed like, man, are you crazy? But in my opinion, as a defensive player, when you look at this is dinking and dunking, making sure that we're taking advantage of everything that you're putting in front of us. I think that was the most important thing that they could have done last night when it comes to New York Jets. Look, we all had a healthy respect for what the New England Patriots defense was. Aaron Rodgers felt like he was 2 steps ahead of him every single time he dropped back.
The combination of that in-structure quick game, which you're talking about, and then the outer-structure plays we saw for Rodgers, it really compromises defenses. And it was the latter that surprised me, honestly, in this one, because as Laura highlighted at the beginning, we haven't seen that from him through the first 2 weeks, going 5 for 5 for 62 yards on the run, making plays with his leg. And that matters so much, even if it might make Jets fans, hold their breath a little bit every time it happens, because, and you saw this with New England, if you focus on that interior rush and you don't set a proper edge, Aaron Rodgers punished them for it multiple times last night. And that is going to change the way defenses rush him. It's going to make them more hesitant to turn their backs on him and man coverage. The fact that he can do that this early in the season, I think that's a remarkable development for the Jets.
Yeah, Mina, you think about what they put on tape last night alone. Defense is having to think about it. And RC, it wasn't just all good with the Jets offense. How about the defense? What stuck out to you?
I mean, listen, Brake, who is Jeff Albrecht, the defensive coordinator of New York Jets, he was rock solid. He understands that they haven't been able to create a rush with the 4-man front. And now you think about Jermaine Johnson being gone. This is a team that pressured 40% of the time, which is much more than we normally get from the New York Jets. I thought Quincy Wilson was extremely disruptive. They put pressure on the quarterback, forcing Jacoby Brissett to either get rid of it or getting hits on him. I think we're going to see more of this from the New York Jets as we go forward. We knew that Ramondre Stevenson would be a load, but once they got up and they got that league, I felt like they were pressuring, attacking, and dictating to the New England Patriots instead of sitting back and allowing the Patriots to dictate to them.
Yeah, and listen, the Patriots were overmatched. We know that. But I did see your tweet, RC, and I think it's worth pointing out. Jacoby Brissett is so tough. What he was dealing with last night could not have been fun. All right, there's a lot more to get to today as we get you ready for the rest of Week 3. And the latest on Jordan Love. He returned to practice Wednesday, just 12 days after spraining his MCL late in the Packers' Week 1 loss to the Eagles. Love practiced on a limited basis the last 2 days, left the possibility open to returning this week against Tennessee. And here's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur earlier this afternoon on his status.
I think there's definitely a lot that's up to him. I mean, you don't want to put somebody in that position, but certainly he's doing everything in his power. He wants to be out there more than anybody. So, but, you know, we'll work through it. We'll give it up till game time, and we'll see where we're at.
So, Dan, Jordan Love still questionable. What would you need to see out of him to make you feel okay about putting him out there in this game?
Yeah, I highly doubt he plays in this football game, and he's got to get medically cleared first. So in the world that he gets medically cleared and hypothetically, 1, does he look like himself in practice? 2, can he operate the way that he wants to operate? Remember, he's not a statue within the pocket. He likes to move around and create space within the pocket. And then really 3rd is, can he protect himself? Can he make sure that if there is some type of pressure issue that he's not just sitting there as a statue or a sitting duck and in danger? All 3 of those things have to happen, plus being medically cleared before Matt LaFleur is even going to think about playing Jordan Love. Again, I think it's doubtful that he plays, but if he gets medically cleared and he sees that stuff, he's going to be out there.
Dio, I agree with you. Listen, sometimes it's not about him being okay to play. It's about who you're playing against and whether you want to rush it or not. And this is not a defensive front that I would be getting after to try to get back while you're unhealthy, especially with Jeffrey Simmons in the center of that pocket, Tavondre Sweat, the rookie, but Harold Landry as well. These guys can absolutely get after the passer. I think of it always from that context. If you want to put a hampered guy out there, you got to be willing to deal with the potential of not, I'm not talking about an injury being catastrophic, but just him and his immobility creating a lot of problems for you offensively. And I think for Jordan Love too. Like, you got to take a long game picture. This dude got paid in the offseason. Obviously, he's dealing with an MCL. But more importantly, you're a good enough team in the NFC to get into the playoffs and actually have a chance. You don't want to extend this further where you're looking down the road and saying, maybe if we would have kept him out one game, we would have won 2 or 3 later on down the road.
Right.
Yeah, also, I mean, they are going to need him later. The Packers have the Week 1 for Marvin Harrison Jr. He lit up the stat sheet in the Cardinals' blowout Week 2 win over the Rams. Harrison and Kyler Murray is showing early signs of a great connection as they look to keep it rolling against the Detroit Lions this week. Here's Dan Campbell on this week's matchup in Arizona.
It's been a good week. We understand the challenge in front of us, and we've had a good week thus far, so finish it out strong today. I know us as coaches, but the players too. You could feel the urgency just in the walkthrough we just did. And, you know, I think all of us want to, you know, spit that bad taste out of our mouth. So this is step 1 to get it done.
All right, so Campbell's trying to spit the bad taste out of his mouth. Dan, what do you want to see out of these Lions after struggling last week?
The pass game in the red zone has got to get better. When you're trying to figure out, okay, what are these teams, and specifically the Lions, doing a good job at? Play action's been fine. I think they got to get Amon-Ra going a little bit more consistently-wise. But in the red zone, pass game-wise, Jared Goff struggling. There seems to be a disconnect between some of the stuff he's looking at and guys expecting the football. He's missing throws. The yards per attempt is way down. And they're not even trying to push the ball into the end zone. It's so often, which is abnormal for this football team. They're a run-centric, play-action-centric offense. And they got good pieces on the outside. And so much of their red zone offense feels like it's capped at like 5 yards. This is something that hopefully this weekend progresses, not only because they got to win this game, obviously, but really for the future, because this offense has been great up until the point of the red zone, and then it falls flat on its face when it comes to throwing the football.
I mean, Arizona's offense was exciting to watch. How do you expect them to attack this Lions defense?
Yeah, Dan and I have talked this week about Arizona's 13 personnel, meaning 3 tight ends on the field, and how they use that to hunt mismatches and create explosives. I expect more of that against a Lions defense that almost exclusively matches 13 personnel with their base defense, meaning 3 linebackers on the field. Alex Anzalone is injured even if he plays. Jack Campbell has struggled in coverage. If I'm the Cardinals offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, I am drawing a giant circle around those players. Expect to see a fair amount of under-center play action and a big day for Trey McBride, their star tight end.
Yeah, Jared Goff has actually won 8 straight games versus the Cardinals. That's tied for the second longest active streak for any opponent. Let's see our game picks, see who everybody's picking here. We're kind of split across the board, I believe. We've got picks there for Marcus, Dan, and Mina for the Lions. Mina and I, Ryan and I are on the Cardinals, excuse me. So at least we're covered all the way across the board there.
Field goal. This is going to be a good game.
It's a good game.
It's going to be a really good game. Let's go to the Bears and Colts. This year's #1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, has struggled. The Bears are off to a 1-1 start to the season. Caleb looking very much like a rookie in his first 2 career games in the NFL. And Williams looking to find his groove this week, taking on Anthony Richardson and the Colts in Indy. Time for a same-game parlay question surrounding both teams in their quarterback rooms. Justin Fields looks in line to start again this week, while Justin Herbert continues to rack up injuries. Here's Justin Herbert with an update today on how he's feeling.
Thankfully, it's only Friday. I think that's something that we'll continue to do, and we'll do everything I can on and off the field to make sure that I'd be available, and I guess that's something that is yet to be decided. It's not great, it is what it is, and it's all about getting treatment and going in there and making sure that it's at its best and doing everything I can to limit the swelling, limit the pain, and just keep things moving forward.
Justin, I don't know if you want to share, was it like a high ankle sprain, a regular sprain? Were you told of how to issue you have?
Yeah, as far as I know, I was told a high ankle sprain.
Interesting. All right, Marcus, if Herbert can't go in this one, you think the Chargers still have a chance?
It's going to be really, really tough, Boogie, because I think in order to beat the Chargers, the Steelers, you have to have everything at your disposal. If you become one-dimensional against this football team with T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and obviously Alex Highsmith on the other side, you can go ahead and send everybody home because the light's going to get put out by T.J. Watt and company. And the other thing is, the one glimmer of hope is that the Los Angeles Chargers has been running the ball at a very high level. Obviously, we know about J.K. Dobbins and what he's been able to do, but there's a very scary proposition with Easton Stick having to stand in that pocket and deliver on 3rd and longs and figure out how to manage against a front that I think can rush against anybody in the history of the league. And I'm not playing and being facetious about what I'm saying.
Yeah, so here is my Pittsburgh Steelers spiel to Justin Herbert. Justin, it's a long season. If you have a high ankle sprain, why would you rush back? Allow Easton Stick to go out there and play the best that he possibly can. And if you guys don't win, it's okay. It's just one game, Justin. It's only one game. But this does change what you're going to do if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know that Jim Harbaugh has come into this team and made it a physical running team. J.K. Dobbins is getting, very good explosive runs in the run game. And so now we can be focused on that. You can stack the box, put all the pressure on Easton Stick. And then when you get in those 3rd and medium to long situations, it's really going to be about pinning your ears back and finding him in that pocket. And I think no one does that as well as T.J. Watt singularly, but when we talk about the front, adding in Highsmith and Cam Hayward, some of the pressures we've seen with Patrick Queen as well, it's going to be a very difficult thing for the Chargers to do with one hand tied behind their back.
Golly, T.J. Watt just takes over games. What?
Boogie, let me say, for people that don't, a high ankle sprain lingers. He won't be healthy for the entire season. Those are one of them injuries that you just have to manage along the way.
Yeah,
that's good context, guys.
I've been told sometimes it's better to break your ankle than to have one. It's going to linger for a long time.
You hate it, too, because it's just been his story. Here's our picks right now. I'm on the Chargers. I kind of want to change with this news, but I'm going to stay with it just to help us out. I know.
Laura, can I say something?
Go ahead.
Laura, can I say something? Real quick,
Yes.
I'm here with the Bengals today. I went in to sit down for an interview. I talked to their social media people, their PR people. They had an entire week of social media pointed toward us if they won that game. So I'm just letting y'all know, people pay attention. Had the Bengals beat the Kansas City Chiefs, their entire week of social was coming straight for us. Be very careful, guys. Be very careful.
We would have deserved it. By the way, that was 1 point away